we've been talking about Oppenheimer because $6 million was the exact same budget as Oppenheimer. So it's really funny that 2 years in a row, Anora and Oppenheimer, exact same budget.
Oppenheimer was $6 million and that's it?
Oh, it's sarcasm. It's humor.
Oh no. Oh no.
Was looking for a laugh track.
I fell for it again. This will probably be in our pre-song bump now. Oh, great. I believed you. And I was like, did I say it? Yeah, anyway.
I think $6 million is how much the hair and makeup budget was just for Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Probably.
It's action on your favorite two old friends, breaking down cinema's latest trends, looking at movies from a different lens. Zach and Ben are picture pals. These guys ain't run-of-the-mill film bros, got interviews with lots of real film pros. Grab that popcorn and away we go. Zach and Ben are picture pals. Zach and Ben are picture pals.
Let's dive into it. Welcome to Picture Pals. I'm Ben.
And I'm Zach.
Welcome to Picture Pals. Big night.
Big night. Big week.
Big week. Yeah, we're recording this on Friday, March 7th, a few days after the Oscars. But it was a hot night full of exciting ups and downs. Excited to dive into it with my Picture Pal, Zach.
Oh, that's so nice. I'm excited to get into it. I can't believe we waited this long to chat.
I know. We are giving the people what they want, but not doing it on their time frame, but on our time frame.
As they should expect from here on out.
Exactly. So I think the best thing to do is to dive into it. First, maybe we'll do a quick recap of the night. Anora wins Best Picture. Sean Baker takes home Best Director, Editor, and Original Screenplay. Adrian Brody, Mikey Madison win Best Actor and Actress respectively, and Kieran Culkin and Zoe Saldana win Best Supporting Actor and Actress respectively. Zach, top level thoughts of the night. How are you feeling? What was your reaction during the moment after a few days of percolation, decompression? Give it to me.
Yeah, let me set the scene for you, Ben,
Ooh.
because I did it right. Okay, I had an Oscar party. Had some friends over, printed off all the Best Picture nominees posters, put them up on my wall. It looked beautiful. There was chips. There was chicken wings. There was dry ribs.
Ooh.
There were beers. There were spicy margaritas. Got some edible glitter in there. Little glitz, little glam. It was a night. And then the show happened. And for the most part, I think that the show was pretty good. I thought it went really smoothly. The production of the show. A couple long speeches, a couple questionable pieces of live TV behavior, but for the most part, I thought the show was really smooth. And in terms of the outcome of the different awards and who took home the statues, I think there wasn't a ton of surprises, although there certainly were some. Not every award I agreed with necessarily, but I think for the most part, a lot of these categories, the Academy did either what was correct in my estimation or almost correct or sort of expected of them, I guess. Bad in the way that I come to know from them. So ups and downs, but on the whole, I thought they did pretty well. How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think there were not a ton of surprises. There were a few, and we'll get into that. But for the most part, either what I expected or what I had hoped. I think looking back on this was a night for you as someone who is a champion of the independent cinema, someone who really enjoys those type of films. You couldn't be mad or sad to see Anora and Sean Baker kind of take home the prize.
Yeah, I mean, Anora with 5 wins is a lot. Not as much as, Oppenheimer from last year, but certainly a lot for one film. Some might say that's boring. Others might say that's a sign of a great film. For me, I wasn't as crazy about Anora as some people, so I think that I would have liked to have seen a little bit more variety up there personally. But, beggars can't be choosers, and you certainly could do a lot worse than a movie like Anora that is, for all that you might say about it, is different from many of the movies that we see nominated and winning awards, and created, in a way that is maybe a little less traditional than some of the others. Not being a big studio movie. I believe it was made for $6 million. That sort of independent stature is always an interesting and fun thing, because you never know what an independent movie is going to bring.
Absolutely. I think when you mentioned Oppenheimer, it's hard to compare. Oppenheimer was a huge movie. A lot of money went into that film. According to the reports, it was $6 million for Nora, and to be able to achieve this level of notoriety and acclaim with $6 million is great. Is independent cinema back? No one's running out to create $56 million film. There are studios out there. I mean, if you're a studio, you're trying to make money, right? And you can make money. You can make $500 million off a $100 million film, or you can make $60 million off a $6 million film. And they both give great rate of returns, right? At the end of the day, you're looking at your bottom line, and though you're not bringing in $400 million in profit, you're still bringing in a lot of profit over your $6 million. And maybe there'll be some more studios looking for smaller but profitable works out there.
Yeah, hopefully. And I think what is important when it comes to those small movies is that while not every small movie hits, and believe me, I've seen many $2, $3, $4 million movie this year that did not hit, but they're relatively low risk for these independent studios, and they can make a bunch of them and see what works. And then you have a big success like Anora that's made close to $50 million worldwide. The Brutalist, same thing. Those are success stories.
Any other thoughts of the night before we kind of dive into what our listeners would love to hear is our thoughts on our winners and losers of the night?
No.
Oh, let's go right into it then. So this is the point in the podcast where Zach and I talk about our winners and losers of the night. Do you want to start out first with the winner, and then I'll follow, and then we'll do like a winner, a loser, a winner, a loser?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. The winner I'll start with is just independent films. I think we didn't see a lot of big movies up on that stage. Looking at, something like animated feature with Flow, the Latvian film, first film ever from Latvia to win an Academy Award. That's really awesome. It was a team of 12 people, I believe I read, that made that film, which is just remarkable. Certainly has... the big studios quaking in their boots a little bit. They throw $200 million behind Inside Out 2 and nothing. This little upstart wins. It's funny, a big win for independent cinema across the board between that, Anora, The Brutalist. It depends on your definition of independent, I guess. But for small movies, small teams, definitely a big win for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, even to follow up on that, I think the Flow team used a free software called Blender to actually animate their film. Whether there's like an enterprise version or not, it's a free software. Anyone can download and start animating right away.
I have it on my computer right now.
There we go. Also, Kieran Culkin in Real Pain. Real Pain is a small independent film. They're the only winner from a non-independent film was Zoe Saldana from Emilia Perez.
Yeah.
When it comes to those big ticket winners.
That's what I was going to say.
I think for mine, to kind of follow up on yours, my big winner of the night is Sean Baker. He ties Walt Disney as the most single wins in a night, which is huge.
Crazy.
Sean Baker, Walt Disney. I think given his other body of work, it is somewhat interesting that Anora wins, but I see him as the face of independent cinema. When he got up there on stage and said we need to invest more in the movie-going theater experience, that was big. That was a direct or indirect jab at the very quiet Netflix table in the room.
Very quiet Netflix table.
I mean, we'll get into that later, but Emilia Perez wasn't exhibited in theaters. And Netflix's entire business model is that we're not going to theaters. We can give you a limited run for awards purposes, but we are not doing that. It is not what their business is. Sean Baker comes in with, probably the best night, again, since Walt Disney, and explicitly says to the crowd, hey, I'm a theater guy. And I think that's big, and I think that's a big winner. So maybe not only Sean Baker, but hopefully the theater-going experience going into 2025 and 2026.
I sure hope so. I'm a big movie theater guy. As you know, I'm there multiple times a week, every week, just getting in the reps. Gonna go pro one day. It is just so much better, and especially like today when, I don't know about you, but I'm on my phone all the time. I'm distracted constantly at home. It's hard to focus on a movie, and having the social pressure of the dark room and the big screen and the nosy neighbors near you, like keeping you off your devices. I think it's just such a better experience. You can really enjoy a film in a way that you can't at home.
I love that. You want to give us a loser? Oh,
big time. Kind of the flip side of the independent cinema win. The big loser for me, I think, is money. In a broad sense, I think the average budget of the winning films this year has got to be one of the lowest ever, despite decades of inflation. Like it's remarkable how small these movies are. You don't have to go back very far. Oppenheimer, obviously, giant movie, but like blockbusters used to win all the time. Think of Lord of the Rings, for instance. Think of Gladiator. It must throw a wrench in these studios' plans where throwing money at the problem doesn't get them as much as it used to. Using their bills for these big publicity campaigns for these films are not doing what they want. I think A Complete Unknown, not a blockbuster film, but still, many tens of millions of dollars to make that film. Big campaign push behind it. Wicked, same thing. Multiple $100 million maybe across both parts. Big campaign. They're everywhere. No wins for A Complete Unknown and very few for Wicked. It is, depending how you look at it, very heartening to see that these films that these awards aren't being bought, but also a little confusing too. What's going to win next year? It's hard to say when the movies that people are pushing are not necessarily the ones that end up being rewarded.
Couldn't agree more. I don't know if the loss for me is as sweet. I love a good blockbuster, and I would like to see a return of form to some of the big blockbuster wins here.
I agree with you. Let me restate my feelings here, because I don't think that it's necessarily good. I'm just making an observation that money did not win this year. I've already got Wicked Part 2, a calendar event in my phone for me and about 12 of my friends. So I'm ready for the blockbusters of 2025.
You coming down to LA for that?
No, my friends.
Oh. Okay, so biggest loser of the week was me. I'll dive into what one of my biggest losers are, and it's low-hanging fruit, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Diane Warren, number 16. 16 nominations without a win. Ties for the most with George Russell, who is a sound mixer. Most recently...
Deserves every loss.
Yeah, terrible sound mixer. No, poor Diane Warren. I don't think she even enjoys going to the Academy Awards anymore. The days of writing El DeBarge's hit songs are behind her. And yeah, I'm hoping for number 17 next year. Maybe this will be the one.
Yeah, we'll see. This original song category is a funny one to me. Diane Warren, bless her. I'm sure they're good songs. I don't remember any of them. Do you remember any of them? I don't understand.
I just know her hit song was "This Is the Rhythm of the Night."
Oh, okay. I know that. I mean, that's
she's been riding on that song for 30 years now.
Hey, Ben, you ever write a banger like that, you could ride it for 30 years too.
All right, let's go to another win. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I
didn't
was
want to cut
just,
you off.
maybe before we move on, I wanted to get your thoughts on speaking about this category. You know, without the performances of the original song nominees, how'd you think the show went?
Great. I don't need to hear another original performance of a song I don't care about. The thing is, I have we'll move later on to this discussion, but the Oscar telecast in general is a complete loser for me.
What?
I think the best moment of the night was Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo singing songs from Wizard of Oz and The Wiz. And then it was just like, and then we have Conan, who I have as a winner. You'll hear him, probably our next winner. But beyond that, like, man, they couldn't have done anything more to alienate Middle America with this Oscar performance.
Explain.
A lot of people who go see movies, go see Marvel, go see big blockbusters in the summer, and while this night is to uplift and celebrate the best of film, the reason why it is a telecast and not a quiet reception in a ballroom somewhere is because we want to bring the theater going audiences into this experience, right? If the majority of theater-going audiences are Marvel, Star Wars, big blockbuster hits, why are we featuring 0 of those films?
So you're advocating for a best superhero film category.
I am advocating for the democratization of the Oscars telecast into a more accessible program.
It's a very devious way of saying that you hated it. No, but it sounds to me like your issue is, I guess I was splitting hairs between the telecast and the awards and what is being awarded. And you're talking more about what is being given out, what films are being recognized, as opposed to the actual sitting down on the couch and watching the show.
Yeah, but I think to this point is that what would be terrible to see on TV is Diane Warren singing the song from the movie about the postal women in the army.
Not a bad movie.
Not a bad movie, but the movie and the song are different things.
Agreed.
I don't need to see that. No one needs to see the Ballad of Buster Scruggs performed, even though that song did win, and it is a great song and a great folk artist who sang it. Like, this does not bring the movie-going audience into the experience. In fact, it tends to isolate. So I think just showing clips of the movie with the song in it is fine.
This is the second time now, 2 weeks in a row, that you've brought up the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Scruggs? Scrubs?
Scruggs.
Scruggs. Yeah, no wonder. It's a made-up word. Is this our first bit?
Is yeah, I'm going to mention Buster Scruggs in every podcast.
Good. Glad. I'm looking forward to that. You're committed. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. This seems to be the epitome of the type of category that we continue to reward because we have always done it. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't need a best film award at the Grammys, you know?
Exactly. Ooh, let's just put that on the marquee for how I feel about this category. Honestly, Diane Warren, you are just the proxy for Ben's losers, which is this entire category.
There you have it. Well, maybe we should go to a winner again. Stop being such a bummer. I have on our sheet here Finance Bros, and I'm trying to remember what I meant by that. You might have to cut this part while I think here.
You also revealed that we're working off a sheet.
This magic doesn't just happen, Ben. What did I mean by that? I had something.
I can jump in if you want to think about yours a little more.
Sure.
Yeah, I think another big winner of the night is Neon. Neon has been acquiring films that other studios, including A24, have passed on recently. And I think Neon has established itself as the preeminent independent movie distributor, production company. One in the same these days. I think look at Anora, obviously, but I think Neon has made some bets, and they have paid off in a way that A24 has seemed to kind of grow in a way that is more traditional with studios. Like, I take a step back, A24 is leaning more and more into the feeling of a traditional large studio, while Neon has kept this independent vibe, which has allowed them to attract like-minded creators like Sean Baker. And I think if I was the head of Neon, or the head distributor at Neon, I would have taken Sunday as a huge win for our business. More so than the money flowing in, which is also a huge win, right? Like, the money is the reward.
I think Neon, when the Neon logo comes up on the screen before a film or in a trailer, the feeling that you get when you see that is kind of how you felt about A24 5 to 10 years ago.
Exactly.
It was a marker of something a little non-traditional and quality. And I think that's what rose A24 to its big success. Now it's kind of acting like a mini major studio almost, setting its sights high, with movies like Civil War this year, really trying to step out and say, like, oh, we can handle the big budgets. We can handle those more complex films that are oftentimes a little more boring, a little less risky, that they hope can pull in a bigger audience and get that 4-quadrant dollar bills.
Are you saying that Civil War was 4-quadrant?
Well, let me paint you a picture, Ben, because I went with my fiance, my mother, and my uncle. And if that isn't 4-quadrant, I don't know what.
You heard it here first. Alex Garland, you've created a 4-quadrant movie.
I also heard it when I said it just now. Ben, I am curious to hear about another winner of yours.
Conan O'Brien?
That's the one.
Oh, I think he did a really good job. I think there has been a whole lot of mediocre hosts of the Academy Awards recently. I actually think one of the best Academy Awards in recent memory was the one without a host.
Wow.
I know, it's a hot take. And
that is.
I love Conan O'Brien. I love his sensibility. I love that he stayed apolitical for the most part, put a few punches in there. I think that's kind of what the audience wanted, what the viewers wanted at home. And he got, our brave LA firemen to shit on Joker too. And, give me that joke day in and day out. It was fantastic. Whoever his writers are, you can hire me.
All right, relax. I totally agree. I thought he did a really good job. I think that he did, like you said, a very good job of weaving between being funny, kind of coming up to the line, never really going over it, as is Conan's humor. Like, he's good at this. He's clearly a professional, knows how to be in front of a crowd, obviously big live TV guy from the past. Totally thought he knocked it out of the park. I completely disagree when it comes to the no host year. I think that was bad. But I'm very happy that we did have a host and that it was Conan, because you just felt safe. You knew that he knew what he was doing, and he was prepared, and he understands that he's there to entertain both people in the room and at home. And sometimes you get a host who knows how to entertain in the room, and sometimes you get a host that is really swinging for the viewers at home, and there's a mismatch. But Conan is the consummate professional and knows how to do both at the same time, and it comes off really strong, and it just makes for a very enjoyable monologue and check-in, and it makes you feel good. I don't know. I
think he gets the invite back next year.
I hope so. I'd love that.
Maybe we can do it without the wasting time number, but I get that it was self-referential. Maybe Adrian Brody should have paid a little more attention to that, admonishment at the beginning of the telecast.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on Adrian Brody's speech? Because it is officially the longest Oscar acceptance speech of all time.
Yeah, so
How do you feel about it?
let's dive into one of my losers, Adrian Brody. Hard to say that he's a loser after going home with the Best Actor win. He has been nominated for 2 Academy Awards. He's won both. In between, there's been somewhat of a desert in his career. Beyond the Wes Anderson, I think he was like in a Predator film. Man, I think there's a reason why Hollywood is hesitant to work with him, and I think that was on full display on Sunday night.
He definitely doesn't not have an ego. Yeah, I agree. Clearly is a talented guy. Very talented actor, but also knows it. And I could see that rubbing some people the wrong way. Of course, he's always welcome to come onto the Picture Pals podcast whenever he wants. He can be an honorary pal for 1 episode.
We'll give him that.
Maybe.
We'll give him that. I mean,
Yeah.
not to get into too much and get canceled on our 3rd ever episode release, or, 2nd episode, 3rd ever release, because we did the part 2. Adrian Brody is now dating Harvey Weinstein's ex.
I just heard this today. I did not realize that's who that was. That is wild.
It is wild, and apparently Harvey Weinstein's children call him Pops. Pops is bringing home...
Yes, he made mention of that in his speech.
Wild. So think of that what you will, whether or not he's dating someone who may be complicit in, one of the darkest moments in recent history of our business. But beyond that, if we just focus on the person himself, seems to have quite an ego. That being said, great performance.
Hey, I don't... If he didn't have that ego, could he have given that performance?
I don't think so, because I feel like that ego is one of the primary drivers of that character. And I don't know if it could be... If it reads as authentic with someone who's acting.
I agree. I think, not to disparage any of the people of that film, but I think there's a lot of egos involved in the making of that film. And I think it works for the film and makes it better for it. But I wouldn't want to see, I guess, Brady Corbett's Honora, I guess.
No.
I don't think that would work.
No, I would be interested to see Sebastian Stan maybe play, which actually, to reverse all this, the announcement for The Brutalist 3 years ago had Sebastian Stan as one of the primary characters, and then it was recast, which is really interesting. I don't know if Sebastian Stan would have played the Adrian Brody part or something else, but he was originally cast in The Brutalist and was recast out of it down the road. But I only say that because Sebastian Stan played another very egotistical person in The Apprentice, and I thought that was a really good performance as well. But maybe the reason why...
Who did he play? Well, my last loser that I'll mention is the idea of an Oscar movie. Certainly has been on the way out as the Academy has gotten more international, maybe less white, as we saw with Oscars So White, 10 years ago. This idea that in order to win awards, a movie has to be a drama, it has to be a period piece, it has to be serious, it has to be slow a lot of the time, or monumental in the feeling that it gives you when you watch it. We saw a lot of awards this year that did not fit that description. Chief among them, Honora. I don't think that 10 years ago anyone would have thought that it had any chance at all. The Brutalist maybe is one of the most Oscar-y movies, but even that is 4 hours long, basically, which is certainly like what Oscar award-winning movies used to be, 80 years ago, but have not been for the past few decades. Who would have thought that we would have seen I'm Still Here go home with Best International Feature?
Yes. Absolutely.
Talk about like a film that has upended sort of our idea of what wins Oscars, although in many ways it is an Oscar-y movie just in a different language. But the fact that it's able to take home everything that it did was really exciting. And Oscar movies have their place, these sort of typical Oscar movies. They're great. They're oftentimes predictable to a certain extent, often very well crafted. But what we're learning about this new Academy is that they value things that are a little bit quirky or a little bit more different, a little bit more real or raw, or however you want to describe it. And I think that's really awesome. So I guess my Oscar movies loser is also a winner for the non-Oscar movie.
I love that. I agree with you. Again, while I can mourn the loss of a traditional blockbuster, I think there's a difference between an Oscar movie and a blockbuster. For instance, blockbuster, if we're thinking Twisters 2 or thinking Top Gun, Maverick. The traditional Oscar movie winner, like Green Book, perhaps. Glad that we are uplifting different voices in filmmaking than we have been with those movies.
Yeah. Or I'm trying to pinpoint when that shift sort of started to happen, but I feel like we've come all the way there. Maybe The Shape of Water.
Yeah, and I think that was interesting, based on like the story it told, and the director, is one of the best directors of all time.
It doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt. But like Roma, for instance, these movies, yeah, I agree with you. I think there's something to be said about I'm Still Here, for instance, winning Best International over Emilia Perez. Very interesting. I think one of my big losers is Emilia Perez. It's hard to say, even though there was a lot of controversy and a lot of, they're not going to win anyways. They started with 13 nominations, and they might have won 2. Any which way you cut it, that's a loss. It's a loss for Netflix. It's a loss for the cast of Emilia Perez beyond Zoe Saldana. Emilia Perez, in some ways, is a completely avant-garde movie, but in other ways feels kind of Oscar-y in what it was trying to accomplish.
Yes, I agree with you. And it was a big loss. And surprising to me, I know as I'm assuming you did, filled out some sort of ballot before the show, and I had it winning a couple things that it didn't. And, we saw just, the week before the Oscars at the César Awards, which is France's big film awards, it took home everything, basically.
Yeah. We had it when we were talking about what would win Best International. We both predicted that it would be Emilia Perez.
Totally. I really thought it was. I thought that the international audience wouldn't have minded as much about some of the controversial things. You showed me, international community. I was wrong there. I think it just goes to show that the Oscars are not as predictable as they once were. They're rewarding different things, and it's not always the most out there movie, like Emilia Perez, that is going to get it, and it's not the most safe movie either. So we don't know anything.
So let me put a question to you.
Okay.
And we might have to save this for next week, not because we're out of time, but because it might require some more thought. Does winning an Oscar matter anymore if we're rewarding these different types of movies and different types of performances? Does winning matter? Does it matter in the sense that you get more jobs? Does it matter in the sense that you're getting critical acclaim? Like, does winning an Oscar in 2025 or 2026 have the same kind of impact on one's career or one's trajectory as it did in 1994, 1995, 2005?
Well, the answer compared to 1994 or even 2005 is definitely no. The way that movies are rewarded and get made today is so different from them. Their star vehicles don't exist in the same way that they did. People don't go see a movie just because a big star is in it. And so you can't leverage the award in the same sort of way. That's not to say you can't. And I do think it is still important. Not as important for the reason I just said, but it is important for getting that bigger budget next time, that bigger payday. Maybe you get to have a little bit more of a say in the room when, the film is being made, or, whatever is important or meaningful to you. I think it definitely matters. What sort of measurable bump that'll be in terms of your career maybe is a little bit unclear, but I think that on an emotional level and on like a immediate next steps level, it definitely still matters. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think like there are some some easy examples that show that could still matter. For instance, like, would Pinocchio on Netflix be made without Shape of Water? Right, they're both Guillermo del Toro movies.
Great question.
What did Corleone win before Roma, or after Roma? It was before Roma. Like, Roma wouldn't have been made without Corleone's first nomination as well. If I'm wrong, we'll cut this part, but I could be right. So I think it still matters. I think, like, I saw some news that Mikey Madison was being cast in a bunch of things now. I think it was like Greta Gerwig.
Good for her.
Interested in doing that. And I think, yeah, it still matters, but I think to your point, star vehicle movies aren't what they used to be. I think the last star vehicle movie I can think of was like Top Gun Maverick. People are going to go see Cruise in Top Gun Maverick because he's Cruise. Or when we have the Mission Impossible come out, it's Cruise, and it's Cruise in a movie that is always Cruise. But I don't see the Hollywood stars like we had back then, and therefore movies are in a different place. That being said, if anyone wants to reward me with a Best Original Screenplay, I'll leverage that the best I can.
I would vote for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know. I think those are sectioned off, right? So you have to have read it, or I don't know. I don't know if that's actually sectioned off or not.
And I don't know what you mean by that.
So, like in the Grammys, right? Like, if you are winning Best Folk Americana Album, you have to be someone in that genre.
Oh, yeah. I know at least some categories are done that way.
Like hair and makeup, all that stuff, and sound design. Those are all
director.
Yeah, you can't be like, a hair and makeup person voting on director, and you can't really be director voting on hair and makeup. Those are like job specific awards that are going out there. So
maybe next year.
Maybe next year. We could be totally wrong too, and if we are wrong, please email us at ben@gmail.com.
Yes. I'm glad that you remembered your email address.
Do you want to dive into any more thoughts? Do you have any more winners, losers? I think we kind of covered most things.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I did have one question based on what you were saying about the Grammys. This is something I've been thinking a little bit about lately because, I love the Academy Awards, and I, like you, want to see them succeed, and I want to see movies that people actually watch get rewarded. I think I would prefer that people see movies that aren't blockbusters, and then that's how we get there. But, either way, like, I want it to be a big popular show with movies that people are actually watching. But, talking about the Grammys does things very differently. The Grammys is breaking down by genre, best country album, best rock album, etc., etc. The Oscars doesn't do that at all. It breaks down by craft. They don't really do that at the Grammys, and it's a completely different approach. So I wanted to get your thoughts about what you think about if we took it the Grammys way and we said this was the best horror movie of the year, the Oscar for best horror movie. This is the Oscar for best comic book movie or superhero movie, or whatever it might be, best Western. I don't know what the categories would be, but this idea of rewarding based on film genre in a way that might allow more popular movies to be rewarded without doing something like best blockbuster, which I think is silly for a lot of reasons I don't want to get into.
Best hotel chain.
The White Lotus?
Best Western.
Jeez. Well, that about does it, I think.
Well, I think... Okay. To your point, I think you might know my answer, and I'm going to take the extension from the Grammys and bring it to the Emmys. Emmys haven't figured out the code yet because there is a whole lot of like category fraud in my opinion, with like the Bear being a comedy, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so silly.
But I think there is room to explore those genres and uplift those genres. I think the Grammy mentality is that we are celebrating music for the night. And we want to celebrate as many people as possible by not comparing apples to oranges to pears to bananas. this is the best pear, this is the best apple, this is the best orange, this is the best banana. And there is a best of everything, right? There is the best album and best song and best artist. I think the Oscars could do a lot more. I think you bring in more people when that happens. If you're a horror fan, you are not really watching the Oscars, but for this year probably because with The Substance, right? True. If you're a comedy fan, why are you watching the Oscars? If you love superhero movies, there's no reason for you to watch the Oscars. You're not watching for best VFX and sound design because you think, Alien Romulus might win. To bring in those viewers and to uplift other aspects of craft that are really, really good would be much more exciting. To have a category where Substance not only competes for Best Picture, but competes also for Best Horror along with Nosferatu.
Awesome.
It
could be 5. It doesn't have to be 10.
Yeah, it could be 5 like most other categories, and then this Substance truly is a top 10 film. It will also be in Best Picture.
There you go.
Best Comedy, my opinion, comedy is harder than drama to write, to act, to do.
Very hard.
Why not uplift that, right? Best Musical. If we have more than 5 musicals a year, which I feel like we did this year, try that on for size.
It could have been Joker 2's year.
Could have been Joker's 2's year, at least in the musical section. I don't think it will ever happen because I think it, obviously, who's going to listen to me, in my opinion, but it would go a long way to make the telecast better, to truly reward creatives who are devoted to their fields, who write in specific genres because that's what they love and care about and are good at. And I think overall, be more inclusive in a way that brings in diverse audiences and diverse perspectives to what is kind of a dry, old night.
I completely agree. I think this would also just make a great conversation of how we might fix the Oscars for the future. It would be very fun to really dive into what that would look like. But
yes,
expanding the tent, I'm all for it. I would be fine to shrink some of those other categories away to do it, to be honest. Would love to dig into that more another time.
You can just award the others. Like in the Grammys, they award a lot of stuff out of the telecast.
And we do that for the Academy Awards too, the technical awards, the Governor's Awards.
Best song, maybe the year Dan Warren wins it is the year we don't put it on the air.
You want to hear my theory?
Yes.
The Oscars, the Academy desperately wants to get rid of the category, but they need Diane Warren to win first. They're going to keep it around until she wins, and she'll be the final winner.
I love it. That's big. That would be a capstone to her career. They already gave her an honorary reward in 2022, and she still hasn't gone away.
She needs the win. Or we're going to be here, grand picture pals, talking with our grandchildren about Diane Warren, the 120-year-old woman who just won't stop writing songs. Well, Ben, it was great talking to you. See you later, pal.
See you later.
It's action on your favorite two old friends, breaking down cinema's latest trends, looking at movies from a different lens. Zach and Ben are picture pals.